All right, everybody. Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. This is the May 11, 2020 Technical Advisory Committee meeting. Yes, if everyone has their agenda, we'll get started. Appreciate everyone's cooperation in doing this over the phone today. I guess we have a record call to order in the introductions. I guess everyone knows on today.
Staff, who actually calls the meeting to order and calls out the names?
Todd calls the meeting to order.
I thought I just did that. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, let's call the meeting to order. Monday, May 11, 2020 Technical Advisory Committee.
Okay, so I'll start with the introductions with staff. I'll start by myself. This is Auri Rivero, executive planner in MPO.
Manny Lajmiri, MPO staff.
Ronnie, you're on mute.
Ronnie Blackshear, MPO staff.
David Goldstein with the County Attorney's Office.
Tania Gorman, Pasco NPO.
Venkat Wadikuri, Traffic Operations, Pasco County.
Tina Russo, MPO.
Kurt Scheibel, PCPT Director.
This is Todd Vandenberg, Director of Planning, City of Zephyr Hills.
Christine Untis T. Barta.
Is that everybody?
Cynthia Spidell is here.
Lori Shediger, the MPO.
And Amir Jamali, Planning and Department.
Staff, is that enough for a quorum?
I think so.
Okay, thank you, Manny. We'll get on to the agenda then. I guess by the virtual meeting requirements for the resolution adopted by the County Board of Commissioners, we're able to hold this meeting in this format, which we're doing today, as presented in the agenda. Do we know if we have any public comment or anyone that's on the phone today with public comment today?
You do not have anyone.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, we'll look for approval of the meeting minutes. The last time we met was the meeting in March 9, 2020. So everyone could take a look at those and please indicate if there's any comments or corrections.
Kurt Scheibel, move to approve.
Christine Untis, second.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve and second to approval of the March 9, 2020 TAC minutes. I guess we'll just call for all the members to indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse me, but it would be best if each member state their name and their vote.
Good idea.
Venkat Wadikuri, aye.
Anybody else?
Kurt Scheibel, aye.
Christine Untis, aye.
Cynthia Spidell, aye.
Todd Vandenberg, aye. Any others? Okay, is anyone against this motion? Hearing done, minutes are approved. We have a report on the MPO board actions. the upcoming meeting. Manny, do we have anything to discuss on that you'd like to share?
Yes, I'll go over that. So basically, it mimicked what the TAC agenda was for March. There was 2 action items. One, the scope for LRTP was extended to June 30th. And Resilient Tampa Bay Transportation Pilot Project was presented by Cambridge Systematics. Ms. Karen Kozlowski presented that. And we also had 2 additional presentations. One was by Scott Pringle from WSP on T-Barda's Regional Rapid Transit. And we had a presentation by Mr. David Engel, Office of Economic Growth, on microtransit virtual simulation. And basically, that was the bulk of the meeting.
Okay. Any further comment? Okay, well, I don't think we need any formal action on that. Let's move on to item 6. We have 3 action items. 6A is the 2-year Unified Planning Work Program, fiscal years 21 through 22.
All right. Well, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody that was able to join us today. We really appreciate the fact that you hopped in the meeting with us. So the Unified Planning Work Program is a document that attempts to capture all the sources of funding that the MPO has and all the activities and expenditures that we will have for the next 2 years. We also really appreciate all the comments that we received from the members that had the opportunity to review the plan. What's a little bit different, perhaps, from this time around, we are going to be doing a microtransit study. We were going to try to be a little more involved with freight routes. We have a couple of TSNO activities that we would like to tackle. And TSNO stands for Transportation System Management and Operations. We are still open to comments until the 11th. If anybody wants to give us comments or has any input, we welcome your input. So that's basically it. Does anybody have any questions?
Kurt Scheibel, is this the approval of the plan, or what are we looking to do for this?
So basically, the plan will be approved on the 14th during the MPO board meeting, but we are requesting your recommendation to approve for the board meeting.
Okay, I'm just trying to find it. I couldn't find it in the documentation, and the link didn't work. Where is the link for that so we can take a look at it?
We did provide a link in the agenda, and let me see. You can, when you go to the agenda item, and it's not the agenda cover, but just give me a second. I'll tell you here what page number we're dealing with. There's a link there. Let's see. So let's see, when you go to, I'm just.
So let me jump in, Ari.
Go ahead.
So if you look in the upper right-hand corner of the packet, there is page numbers. Scroll to page 18. We don't have a direct link, but we have a link to the pascompo.net. If you click that, and then on the left-hand side, you see public hearings and notices. We have a direct link for the MPO, Pasco MPO, for MPO meeting, but on the left panel, hit public hearings and notices, And then you can see the documents for UPWP, which is the first item listed. And in there is a hyperlink called Draft UPWP. And I will warn that it's going to be 102 pages. And if you haven't looked at it before, you probably won't have time right now.
It was also
And as I-
the agenda packet for last meeting that got canceled. Ari had sent out an email with all the links. And that's what I reviewed to provide her comments virtually in advance of the meeting.
So is today the actual deadline, the 11th today, to provide any additional comment? Todd?
Formally it is, but I mean, if you provide something by tomorrow, we'll do our best to include it. We're still working on the document as much as we can.
One thing I do want to point out is on page 22 of it, there is a US 19 Intermodal Transit Center. That project was canceled a few years ago. If we can get that removed, that would sure make my life a whole lot easier, because there is going to be no 19 Intermodal Transit Center built.
I think,
Go ahead, Tania.
I think the reason why it was left on the list, Kurt, because if we removed it, it was going to be hard for FDOT to put it back on the list after it was removed. So if that's the case, then I think we have to discuss with Jensen and Justin how to proceed. Jensen, am I correct in stating that? Because I remember this conversation last year.
This is Venkat again. I usually don't recommend deleting. If you want, you can put on the priority lower and you can keep it. I usually don't recommend deleting anything because you never know when that is going to have. If any part of it, if you need to do, you can't do anything unless it is on the list.
Agreed, Venkat, because I think that was the position FDOT had with that as well.
Jensen has been unmuted if he needs to speak.
There we go. Yeah, that's correct. It's just really difficult to get something like that back on, just in case that is something decided later upon. But Kurt, we know already with discussions with you and with discussions with T-Barta, kind of where that has left off. So it's just our recommendation just to keep it on there, just in case something does show up with that in the future.
Okay, well, just so you know, it's been killed by the commissioners, and there's no budget for it, and nothing is going to be used for that anyway. So just so you understand, there is no later on that. It's never going to happen. It's been taken off all the TDPs. It's been removed from everything. So I'm not sure where this later is coming from, and it's also hindering other projects that I am trying to get taken care of. So my recommendation is still to get rid of it. But if you guys want to do it and build your own facility, but Pasco County, PCPT is not going to build anything out there. And in fact, the new facility is going to be actually at the Galen Wilson, and it's not even going to be a multimodal center.
Hey, Kurt, can I ask you a question? Are you looking up the UPWP or the LOPP? Because we're talking about UPWP right now.
I'm looking at the UPWP. It says on page 22, I think I said it was.
Okay.
I'm sorry, let me find it here. And it also is page 22, I was right, 22C. Participate in coordination of US 19 Intermodal Transit Center and FDOT Intermodal Center study at Wesley Chapel. I know the Wesley Chapel one's going. I have the Intermodal Center was something that was done back in 2012, and it's been killed ever since then. So, I mean, it was killed before I even got here, and people keep asking and I don't see it. So I'm not sure what's going on there. And then I'm also not seeing the COA stuff, because we're about to start a COA literally in about, probably about 2 months. I'm just waiting on the funding to get done. And the problem I'm seeing is I don't see it in the budgetary process underneath the 5307 stuff. I submitted all this stuff back a while, and I don't know why it's not being reflected, the things I'm asking to put on there, because it affects my funding. So is there any way we can get that fixed?
So I did try to, go through and incorporate all the comments that you requested as much as we, as much as we saw fit. I'll go ahead and contact you, after the meeting, and Manny, maybe we could just clarify, or it could have been also a misunderstanding. So I'll go ahead and contact you.
I'd like
And
to
then,
have that conversation too, please.
yeah, that's what I meant. I'll contact you and Manny, and then we'll finalize.
I'm asking for Mr. Blackshear to also be in on this.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't hear that. Yes. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, Ari, you and Ronnie can take care of it.
So,
Right.
Kurt, can I just add a little bit of background about the intermodal facility that has been on in the program since 2012, and give you a little history on that. And this probably happened before you were here, Kurt. So there were two locations that had been in discussion. One was in Newport Richey on Main Street, and then the second location, and that went south because the city had other plans for the property in Newport Richey. And then there was discussion about another location that was on US 19, and I want to say Marine Parkway possibly, and it was on the west side of 19. And that became a challenge in acquiring right-of-way and trying to site a facility at that location. Some of the property owners along US 19 live outside of the state and outside of the country. So that started losing momentum, I want to say, at least 3 years ago. So maybe when you have this conversation with others, you should, kind of recount the history of this. And it really never got any more mileage after that. And 3 years ago, it kind of went south.
And Deborah, when I came in, I was told it was killed, and that's
Yeah.
my knowledge. So
yeah, and that's correct. I mean, this was very hard to put together. Oh, and at one time there was conversation about putting something up at Gulfview Square Mall too. So that was another discussion. So there were like 3 potential locations, and nothing ever got any momentum. It just didn't get any legs. There was no support from what Simon owns the properties, the Gulfview Square Mall property, and then there was looking at an out parcel, and then there was looking at the location Newport Richey. So it was real hard to come up with a plan that was feasible for siting of that facility.
all I know is that there was $1.3 million put aside for this in 2016. They took all the money away from it and canceled the project at the CIP process in 2017. And then what you said, Deborah, is like, it's supposed to be a Gulfview Mall, and they said no. So
Right.
I'm now exhausted all my knowledge on this project.
So you know something, is it possible if you want to keep it in there to just treat it as a feasibility study?
That's a good idea.
And to evaluate it one more time to see if it has any legs, and if it doesn't, then to kill it.
I don't see why we couldn't do that for
Just look at it as a feasibility and then give it one more shot. And if nothing materializes, then you've got justification for getting it out.
I can use that as part of the COA process too.
Mm-hmm.
This is Cynthia Spidell. I actually was the CIP coordinator who planned it in 2015 and 2016, along with Mike Carroll and whoever his successor was briefly at that time. And it is my recollection as well that we had conditions in the Gulfview Square Mall when they were trying to renovate and rejuvenate their project there, that we had some conditions in their essentially built-out agreement that required them to set aside some areas for this. And my recollection was Mike Carroll at the time, and obviously hasn't been there for a few years, and neither have I, but just for the history of it, my recollection was that he ultimately wanted to have that connect, to the north, because I guess there was some, just for some regional connectivity with Hernando to the north. And that was pretty much my recollection of it, but I left in 2016, so, and the rest is history.
Well, thank you, everybody, for the input there. Any other comments on item 6A?
Kurt, was
If
there
not, we'll call for a
discussions?
motion. Go ahead.
Kurt, was there discussions about the express bus on US 19? And I think John had said we were gonna leave the intermodal on the list just in case the express bus plan had worked out on 19. I think that's what some of the thought was too. I could be wrong, I don't know.
We had talked about something like that, but we're using a project that has been approved in the CIP. It's in the final stages for what we call them super stops. And it's going to be one at the north, one at the south. And then we're still going to go to Gulfview Mall. So that's where that went. And we're trying to work with Pinellas MPO because they want to do an express bus service and looking for some things too. But with all there was a meeting supposedly we were going to have in the middle of March. Well, that got canceled. So it's been put on hold for another year, I believe. But I agree, though. I think there is going to be a US 19 Express, but we're looking at doing some smaller stops at a remote intermodal center, more of a upgraded transfer station.
Makes sense. Thank you for the clarity.
Okay, we'll call for a motion.
Venkat Vadikudi, I made a motion.
Is there a second?
This is Debbie. I'll make a second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for item 6A. For those that can vote, if you indicate your name and your approval. Thank you.
Venkat Vadikudi, aye.
This is Debbie. Aye.
This is Cynthia, I.
This is Todd, aye.
Christine Huntis, aye.
Kurt Scheibel, I'm going to have to say nay until after the phone call.
Is that everybody? Okay, motion is approved with some additional continued conversations after this meeting with the TAC staff. Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on to item 6B is the joint MPO FDOT certification.
Yes, Todd, this is Manny. This is basically something we do on an annual basis. It's a requirement that we assess how the MPO is in compliance with all the federal and state laws when it comes to metropolitan transportation planning. This is basically a joint FDOT and MPO certification, and it's covering the calendar year 2019 from January 1st, 2019 to December 31st, 2019. But the actual meeting was conducted in March of this year, March 10th. Fortunately, the Pasco MPO was found to be in compliance with federal and state guidelines for the metropolitan transportation planning. There is in your agenda packet, there's a certification summary and a statement. The summary includes notable achievements, some recommended actions, and there was some corrective actions in there. I wanted to get your attention on one of the recommended actions is for an agenda item that will be forthcoming in this meeting about the priority list. DOT has over several years has asked us to kind of streamline the priority list, kind of combining them all in one, and we're actually going towards that goal. And I think we're getting there. So, based on this joint review and evaluation, FDOT and Pasco MPO recommend that the metropolitan planning process for our MPO be certified, and they request that the TAC approve it and forward it to MPO, where the MPO chair will sign the joint certification along with later on with the DOT district secretary. If you have any questions, I'll be here to respond.
Thank you, Manny, for the background on this item. If there's no comments, we'll call for a motion for approval of the MPO joint certification documents.
Can I ask a question? Before
Absolutely.
we make it. So in that list, there are some recommended action items that are identified there. Did you have to provide a plan of action for these, or just a statement saying that you would correct them? Did you have to do anything different, special to address?
So Debbie, so these are some of the recommendations that DOT has for us.
Okay.
And in fact, we're already addressing some of these.
Okay.
This is a recommendation that we kind of like, as our partners they are, we need to just follow up what they're asking us to do. And we're doing that.
Okay.
Hey, Debbie, this is Jensen. So just to read it with what Manny was saying, the recommended actions are in there in each certification, and the certification is done yearly. So you can kind of see the progression of the recommended actions on a year-to-year basis, but we do not require a specific bulleted list or whatnot that says that the MPO has taken care of these actions. We just respond to what are some of the recommendations that we would recommend throughout the year as the MPO is processing their current agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Any more comment? Not, we'll call for a motion.
Kurt Scheibel, move to approve.
Thank you.
This is
there a
Debbie.
second?
Motion. I'll second the motion, Todd.
Thank you. So we've had a motion and a second. If everyone that's a voting member could please provide their name and their vote.
Kurt Scheibel, yay.
Debbie Bolduc, aye.
Venkat, aye.
Cynthia, aye.
Todd, aye.
Christine Huntis, aye.
Okay, I believe that's everyone. Motion passes unanimously. Last action item is item 6C, the FDOT MPO agreement for fiscal years 20 to 21 through fiscal year 2021 to 22.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is Ronnie Blackshear for the record MPO staff. The existing FDOT PL agreement that's currently in place now will expire on June 30th, 2020, which is the end of the fiscal year. And a new PL agreement is needed to be approved, and it will become effective July 1st of this year and extend for 2 years through June 30th, 2022. FDOT is requiring all MPOs in Florida to complete this action before the end of the state's current fiscal year. And in order for us to utilize those federal funds, those planning funds, the MPO must enter into an agreement with the FDOT that specifies the scope of planning to be conducted. And this coincides with our 2-year UPWP that was adopted earlier by you guys. The recommendation here is that for the MPO staff recommends that the TOC review and approve the planning agreement with FDOT and to pass it along to the MPO for final approval. And as attachments, there's a resolution for the chairman of the MPO board to sign, and also the FDOT MPO PL agreement is also included. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comment?
This is Debbie again. I had a question for you about the resolution that you have attached. Now, since it's going to be a virtual meeting, I know that there was some language that came out from County Attorney's Office regarding that last sentence before the signature block where it says done and resolved this 14th day of May 2020. I think there's supposed to be some additional verbiage, done and resolved through a virtual meeting, blah, 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 this 14th day of May. So you guys might want to check that.
Well, Debbie, I just wanted to respond to that. If in the beginning we didn't go over it, David was there, those things was actually in the meeting initially, when this meeting started. If you look in the front part of the agenda item, it speaks of the MPO resolution for the Board of County Commissioners, which was also adopted by the MPO board. Will be adopted by the MPO board in their resolution to speak of virtual resolutions, virtual meetings. That includes not only the MPO board, but also its committees. That information is there.
Oh,
that covers us now, but it would also be formally adopted by the MPO board.
Okay, good. All right.
This is David Goldstein. I thought I did edit the resolution, Ronnie.
Yes, the resolution, I'm sorry, this is Auri Rivero, MPO staff. Yes, the resolution does say before the signature block what you are referring to, that it is done and resolved in this virtual meeting. If you look at the last paragraph before the last line, the last paragraph does indicate that.
Okay.
But I think what Ms. Bulldog is talking about is the resolution for the PL agreement, not the virtual meeting. That covers everything that is being covered in a virtual meeting.
The resolution for the PL agreement has it too. It says now therefore be it resolved in virtual session with a quorum attending and voting through communication. So
Yeah,
it has it.
I'm looking at it now. All right.
Okay.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Thank you, everyone.
To approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Voting members would signify by stating their name and their vote, please.
Kurt Scheibel, aye.
Cynthia, I.
Debbie, aye.
Venkat, aye.
Amir, aye.
Christine Hunter's aye.
Thank you. I believe that's everyone. Motion passes unanimously. All right, moving on to some status reports, presentations, updates. First we have is the draft 2020 LOPP, where I guess we put that out for request for public comment.
This is Tina Russo, MPO staff, active transportation planner. So we've been accepting comments, and as Manny said, this is our first time combining table 1 with the regional priority list, trail list, and we've had a couple of projects that were taken off that were on the previous list as well, but we're cleaning up those tables. And again, table 1 was the first opportunity that we have added the trail list to it, and we just kind of incorporated it into that list. Cleaning up table 4, which is the sidewalk comments, and we're working on those currently.
So as Tina said, basically we have a draft out there for you all to look at. We, mostly in the comment section, we haven't really updated that information, but we will. We have a meeting this Thursday. Debbie has already sent us an extensive list of comments on the priority list that we have to address for her, and any other ones that we will receive. So this will come before the MPO in June for their approval.
And please provide those in writing and comments and emails. So that way I have a clear understanding what the request is and the comments made, and we'll go from there. This is my first time doing an LOP, and there wasn't much to go on, so it started from scratch pretty much. So, and I appreciate everybody's comments and help with putting together this list of priority projects, especially with Deb and Sam helping me with a lot of the trail projects and sidewalk projects as well.
So this basically is it, Todd. It's just the introduction of the item.
Right. Gotcha. So yeah, if everyone could take a careful look at these and provide comments back to the MPO staff to go to the MPO in June. You said in June, right?
Yes, sir.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Does anybody have any comments or questions they'd like to share with the staff this
So
time?
Tina and Manny, will this come back to the TAC in June with those comments identified and addressed? Will it come back to the TAC?
Right. We're going to go through all the comments and we'll have a final draft. It will begin by the CAC meeting first, and then you guys, the TAC, and then ultimately the MPO will adopt on June 14, I think it is, second Thursday in June.
Okay. All right. Thanks, you guys.
Any further comments? If not, let's move on to second item here, 7B, draft TIP fiscal years 2021 through 24-25.
Tania Gorman, Pasco MPO. The TIP identifies a 5-year fiscal plan from 21 to year 25, listing of all the transportation projects and programs funded with federal, state funds within Pasco County. Last year, the MPO board approved the LOP that has been reflected in this year's TIP and the FDOT work program. We'll be providing a final presentation with highlights from this year, the TIP, at the June 11th MPO board meeting. Currently, we are still receiving comments from the public and stakeholders, and we're asking you guys to provide comment and feedback. And then once we've received all the comments, we'll incorporate those comments as we produce the final draft. So some of the highlights last year is the widening of 52 from 2 to 4 lanes from Schrader, from Schrader Highway to 41. Okay, so that's one of the highlights. And then we have the interchange improvement on the southbound ramp of I-75 from County Line Road to State Road 56. This year, we have a few more highlights that are in the current TIP that I'm working on, and list of priority projects that will be in the tentative work program this year, because as we know, FDOT adopts their work program, the tentative work program on July 1st. So some of the highlights are US 41 from north of Connerton Boulevard to 52, that's from 2 to 4 lanes. We have US 301 from 39 to County Road 54, we're adding lanes. And then I'm gonna hand it over to Jensen to discuss the rest of the 52 widening, as I do not want to butcher it. So Jensen, the mic is yours.
So this is in regards to the State Road 52 portion from US 41 over to Bellamy Brothers, just to the west side of I-75. We have now split the project into 3, which is going to be put on the priority list, which is the #1 priority, but it's just going to be shown as 3 different segments. Just due to some of the COVID activities, there has been some funding that has been slightly tweaked there. So what we are proposing with that project is the segment 1, the -1, is already funded, and that would go from US 41 to Secretariat, which is between Aaron Cutoff and US 41. The second piece of that would go from Secretariat to Aaron Cutoff, and then the third piece would go from Aaron Cutoff to Bellamy Brothers. Again, what we are looking to do is we are still looking to tile these together, The segment 1 was put into the tentative work program, which will be adopted on July 1st of this year, and that funding will go to fiscal year 25. And we're looking to still fund the other 2 portions, potentially in fiscal year 26 with the next work program, which would be adopted next July 1st, which would provide the funding for fiscal year 26 for the other 2 segments. So that is what we are looking at right now, but that was a little bit of an adjustment from what I presented back in November to the committees based on what we were doing with the tentative work program. So if you have any questions,
can I ask a question?
Yes.
When you say funding, you mean like construction?
Yes,
Like not
these
just
ones.
design. Okay.
These ones were for construction. Yes.
When you said to secretariat was 2025 and then the remainder 2026, maybe? Did I get that
Yes.
right? Okay,
Yep,
thank you.
41 from 41 to secretariat would be still 2025. We just had to shrink that up a little bit just because of the cost of the project. But then the second segment from secretariat to Aaron Cutoff, and then the third segment from Aaron Cutoff to Bellamy Brothers would be put into the tentative work program for 2026.
Jensen, I have to call you and Justin along with Tania, because in the current TIP, that's not how this project is displayed. The project is funded from 41 to Aaron Cutoff as one project. It's not broken down. If you are going to later on go in the TIP and break that, we'll support whatever segmentations you have. But currently in the TIP, in the exact TIP that Tania presented, you look, the project 52 from 41 to Aaron Cutoff is fully funded. It doesn't have segment A and B and C, or the A and B. It's a combination of segments 1 and 2 for you.
No, but it says construction's unfunded, so maybe you can just say portion is funded.
No, it is
break it out
funded,
that way.
Cynthia, in the actual TIP project listing.
Okay.
You didn't include the tip into this agenda packet, correct, Manny? I don't think.
Yes.
Is it there?
Yeah, I can show
I just
you
hit the
what
link. I just hit the link. Maybe I'm looking at the wrong page.
No, we didn't put the full tip. Yeah, Cynthia, if you want to go to the actual website.
That's what I did. Yeah.
Did you? Okay.
Tip. Where am I? I can't see. It says MPO tip FY. It just says adoption date, June 11, 2020. I'm on page 17.
Yeah. Hold on, I'm getting there.
It just says design underway, fully funded right away. Construction unfunded. US 41.
In the current tip now.
Oh, so I'm looking at the current tip then? I'm not looking at the...
Oh, you're looking at the draft tip with the detailed project listing.
Yeah. Yeah. For June 11th, 2020.
So are guys going to break it up then and have us do a tip amendment, or are you thinking you'll do that before we adopt?
Tania, it's the first project in the listings that you have. On page 33 of your TIP is the first project that's listed. 52 Schrader Highway from 41 to Aaron Cutoff. Which make up the first 2 segments that Jensen is talking about. And if that covers the first 2 segments, in our priority list, we only list the 3rd segment, which is from Aaron Cutoff to Bellamy Brothers. We can fix it more than one way.
Yeah, no, I got it, Manny. I'm just saying the first leg is shortened up a little bit from 41 to secretariat. And then the next leg won't be done in fiscal year 26. So that's why I'm asking, do we have to do anything to change what the first project in the project listing says? I mean, like you said, whatever they want us to do, we'll do it.
Right. So what I'm saying is in the TIP that you have,
Uh-huh.
This project covers the first two segments that Jensen went over. It's from 41 to Secretariat and Secretariat to Erin Cutoff. They're both covered under this 256334 project.
Oh, okay. Okay, got you. All right. Nope.
So the only unfunded piece would be from Erin Cutoff to Bellamy Brothers or 581. In the first segment, they have all of it in 2025. Like I said, we'll talk to them after the meeting sometime. We'll work this out.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, and Tania, I think that's where you're getting confused is the way that the segment was broken up underneath of the original, which was from US 41 over to Erin Cutoff. That one, just in terms of being funded on years, that's what I was discussing with the goes with, where it would let in the June and July, which it essentially spans the state year, but it would run and go under construction almost simultaneously, to where it just appears like it's all going as one construction project, and that's how it's letting. But in order to let on the specific years, which is what is grabbing the funding for that out of fiscal 25 in June and then fiscal 26 in July, that's what we were talking about with that goes with, where it would just let a month apart, but in all intents and purposes, it would look like it was one construction project for that entire segment. But yes, that next portion, which Manny was talking about, which is from Erin Cutoff over to Bellamy Brothers, that we would look at doing that funding for the next work program cycle, which wouldn't begin until this upcoming fall, which would be for capturing funding for that segment in fiscal year 26.
So if you all agree, we will put that segment in our priority list from Erin Cutoff to Bellamy.
Yes, that's the only one that doesn't have funding on it right now.
And then in the comments notes, we'll say the first two pieces is already funded.
Yep, and that would go in your programmed or your funded list. Yep.
There you go.
So basically, we're not changing any of the actual document, the files itself, but actually adding the comments regarding the third segment.
So Ronnie, we can do one of two things. Right now in the priority list, 52, number one priority is 52 from 41 to Bellamy, which makes up the three segments that they talked about. But according to the TIP, the first two pieces are already programmed. So we can either in the comment section say from 41 to Erin is already funded and the only piece left is from Erin to Bellamy, or change the whole priority number to read 52 from Erin Cutoff to Bellamy. That's the only piece that they don't have funding for.
And what I'm saying is that I understand that, but I think just explaining that will go a lot farther, because we're looking at a segment that's unfunded, or will be in the next TIP. So putting that language in the actual comment section, explaining exactly what you just said, I think is probably the better choice.
Okay.
Vincent, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Right, so we'll keep the same, the way it reads, and in the comments, we'll mention the piece that's missing.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the tip? Alrighty.
I do have one question. This is Kurt. Which one's going to be incorporated into STIP? Are both project lists going to be incorporated, or just one?
I'll let Jensen answer that, because we don't get involved with the STIP. That's the state project.
That one will be broken up as essentially how it'll be worded is there's a -1, which is the furthest west segment. There's a -2, which is the middle segment, and the -3, which is the eastern segment. So that's how it will be labeled in the STIP. And then that's also how it will be spelled out in the TIP once that funding does get secured for that fiscal 26.
Because the reason I'm asking is I have to present the STIP when I apply for my grant funding. So if the LOPP is not signed off as part of the STIP, I just need to make sure that's in there because the stuff in the TIP that's being presented now is not the actual things that I'm going forward with. The things in the LOPP are. That's why I'm curious about why there's two different lists. Because it should be the exact same thing because I'm doing the exact same thing. And I just want to make sure that's correct because it's going to screw up my funding. And that includes other funding that I get too.
Yeah, and that one, we'll make sure that's, I'll get with you on that one just to make sure that everything's lined up for your funding.
Thanks.
Are there any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to CMP. Task force issues. Are there any, Manny?
Right
Are
now,
you available?
no, usually we just go around and ask staff, right? If they have any.
We didn't have any CMP project from the TAC. And as Ari's saying, if we go around, if you guys have any questions you want to ask about that.
Well, this is Todd. I've shared with staff some issues that south end of Zephyr Hills is dealing with a lot of Pasco County growth, single-family residential development that's happening on south of Chansey between 301 and 39. And, we're just very concerned. I know they'll be paying their mobility impact fees and they'll probably have a churn lane, but those corridors are going to be heavily impacted by all that residential development that's going on down there, and we're going to have to be very careful to watch that and look at those priorities on the list that we've been looking at today. And there's some segments that, I don't know, we're just going to have to take a careful look at to make sure we don't get too bogged down in that part of the 301 corridor. We're also looking at one last item I'll share, being that the city now improves Simons Road. We have some development occurring on Simons Road, and we're working with a few of the county staff and looking at some additional road improvements on turn lanes on Simons Road and turn lanes on Island Boulevard, and potentially a traffic signal to be located at Simons and Island Boulevard due to the development that's occurring on Simons Road. A lot of single-family residential development, probably about 750 units. So we are going to do a signal warrant analysis, having the applicant do that in their TIA. So we'll be looking at that. Probably we've I think had some good meetings already with Hassan and some of their the other staff there at the county will continue to do so. That's all that I had. Any others?
Nothing from me, Venkat.
Okay. Well, hearing no more, we can move on to PCPT updates. Do we have any today?
Whole lot of stuff going on over here. So Shady Hills, as you know, we've had to put that on hold due to budget issues. The buses will actually be built in July because they were pushed back to the COVID stuff. We still plan to start either 1 October or October 5th, just depending on how everything goes forward. The buses should be here by the middle of July. If you're not aware of it, the county has had a large deficit in funding. I did my budget meeting today, and it's affecting everything that's going on. So a lot of things may be changing. One of the things, though, that was positive is that our comprehensive operational analysis, if everything goes well, I hope to have it done, started by July or August. The issue is getting the funding from FTA, and I'm having a lot of issues with FTA because past tips, or actually past steps, are not accurately reflecting the money that was received, and I'm having to work that out with central office. So that's why I'm really looking at the different things, listening to what FTA is telling me. It's not an issue, it's just that I need to make sure that the projects are on there because they're not approving things anymore. And that is a new FTA funding stream and requirements as part of MAP 21 and the adjustments to it. So, but the COA is going to be going forward, and you can expect this body will have a time to talk about what they think is going to be happening. Specifically, I know, Ronnie, I'm going to have you have a one-on-one because I want to make sure that whatever is being planned is moving forward and with your team. And then, Chris, I know they're going to talk to Tibarda to get them going. And I'll probably be talking to every one of you all at the different city levels to talk about what your planning is going forward so we can make sure it's included in what's happening. Because I could see a massive overhaul of BCPT. My understanding is the last COA that was implemented was before 2000. So we'll see what happens. But all I'm doing is waiting for the final FTA approval for the funding, and I'll start it. I'm already working out some of the verbiage because we'll be using the GPC that's in place right now with the planning department for Tyndall Oliver, and they'll be the ones who will be bringing things in. Moving on to the next subject, we've lost probably about I would say about $200,000 to $400,000 just in excess fees, excess things for the COA or for the COVID stuff. But the good news is we did receive a nice chunk of change from the FTA through the CARES Act. I do know that there is another bill being proposed through the different committees for more money to come through the CARES Act, because if you don't, the days of having a lot of people on buses, I think, are going to be moved down the road. Lastly, I know TIF money is being affected. They're going to do some things with TIF, but I'll let that come out when it actually gets approved at the next board meeting next week. Anything else other than that, I'm open for any questions.
Thank you, Kurt.
I have a question. I'm curious as to, I'm thinking of, sort of the implications of mass transit in New York and how, it kind of got blamed for the spread of it, including, workers coming in sick and stuff like that. So I'm just curious, are you guys gonna do some kind of campaign to make people feel safe to get back on the bus again, like masks and cleaning and sanitation? And I'm just curious about how I'm worried about the long-term effects of rider usership as a result of COVID. And I was just curious what you guys were thinking of to kind of get ahead of that.
What we're doing is right now we have 2 videos out that talk about social distancing and so forth. A 3rd video is coming out about what we're doing for the future. And then a 4th video will be talking about how we're going to maintain our cleanliness. One of the things we're doing is I'm hiring approximately 7 more people full-time for a minimum of the next 4 years using the CARES Act funding. And what they will do is every day they'll clean every bus. They're doing that right now as temp agency type of folks. We're going to bring them into the county, and I'm going to develop what is called a servicing department. So we will be doing exactly what you're talking about. Right now, I actually have people on the bus that clean the seats as soon as someone gets up and gets off. I won't be able to sustain that because it costs literally too much money.
Oh my God, I'm sure.
I am working on getting things, and it's neat. Debbie's taking away the nice view she has of outside her location.
Are you requiring people who get on the buses to wear masks? And is that something that we can do?
Not this time. I know PSTA has said yes to do that. They recommend it. We are also recommending it, but we're not requiring it. The problem is what do you do for someone who is indigent, who has a bus pass? How do I give them a mask if I require them? So it's a civil rights violation, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a lawyer, but that's what it feels like to me in that situation. So that's where
unless you had a handful of disposables there. I know that's what they're doing in Germany.
Yeah,
and I'm not sure about New York, but
don't have the supplies for that yet. In the future, maybe. The only thing is that gets expensive really quick, and unfortunately, my budget won't be able to handle that because my budget is being cut probably by about $1 million, which is, yeah, that's 10%. So that's because of match funding. That is maybe, don't know for sure. But I do know that I originally was cut about 200,000. Then it went for about a little bit more than that. Like I think I'm up to 500,000, and it could even be more. I can absorb probably up to 500 to 700,000, but after that, it's going to have to be. I'm going to have to push things like buses, new buses, and things like that down the road. It all has to do with match. How can I multiply the match?
Thank you.
Any other questions? But the safety of the customers of my drivers are the highest priority.
Thank you, Kurt. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 10. If anybody, we've got a lot of folks online today. We'll just open this up to any additional general comment or input that anyone that's online today would like to share. Anything?
No, this is Debbie. I don't have anything to add, anything more to add.
This is Cynthia. I just think that this whole COVID crisis has demonstrated, it has, I don't know if you guys use any of the multi-use trails at all, but I have never, as an avid user of all the trails, and that's the only time I ever leave my house is to go running. I have not ever seen the UTBT, the Upper Tampa Bay Trail, the Mitchell Boulevard Trail that goes by the power lines. I have never seen all those trails so crowded ever. And it certainly was very, very difficult to maintain social distancing when it was like literally a scene from like zombie movies, like just hordes of people coming towards you and behind you. And so I think that I'm really happy that we've got Vision Zero back on, as one of the objectives, because I think separating the various modes of transportation, and it came to light during this COVID crisis, how I know someone who got hit by somebody on a scooter, and then, bicyclists were like, sneaking up on pedestrians, and, just having some sort of some way through design to be able to separate the various modes of transportation as people are competing for use on these trails. Now I know that it's a lot of the people using the trails has been because they've all been cooped up, and it's the only thing that they could do. But there might be some elements of this COVID crisis that are going to stay with us for some time. So I think that the use of the trails are going to continue to increase, which is great for trails, but then again also emphasizes the need for some sort of safety protocol or organization, or separating the various uses and who gets to use what, who has the right of way. Should motorized scooters be on the trails? Those kinds of things will come into play even more. So I don't know if anybody else has thoughts or has used any of the trails or has any similar comments.
This is Venkat. I want to share a couple of information. We pulled some statistics about the traffic between last year, March, April, and versus this year, March and April. The traffic volumes were down close to 40 to 50%. In the same lines, the total amount of auto-related crashes reduced to the same ratio, 40 to 50% less. However, if you look at the non-motorized crashes, last year, April, we got about 22 crashes. And this April, we got 19 crashes. Means there's no reduction in the crashes. As Cynthia mentioned, because the non-motorized users, the trails, walkers, joggers, increased enormously. So Vision Zero is going to have a heck of a challenge here to make it real zero.
And this is Tina. We'll actually be bringing some really great updates about our Vision Zero at our next meeting, some videos that we're working on. So we've been working really hard with ACOM on our Vision Zero project and even further out. And Cynthia, I'm a trail user too, and I've been preaching that whole deal, how many more people have been using our facilities since COVID-19. And I've posted some things out there on social media about distancing as a trail user. That's been shared quite a bit, and I can share that with the group through an email as well. But it's definitely been a great larger amount of use on our trails. And Venkat knows this. We're working on a program with FDOT and getting trail counters so we can start getting some counts on the use of our facilities.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. This is Todd. I haven't had the chance to re-communicate with Brian Schroyer with the DOT. I don't know if Jensen's still on or if you've heard anything, but I believe in April and now we're in May. I mean, maybe the COVID situation has resulted in some delays, but this is in regards to the State Road 56 ACE process that we're going through for the extension of State Road 56 east of US Highway 301. My understanding was I thought within this time frame we were going to be seeing the reports, looking at the alignment alternatives, and meant to get with DOT this morning, but didn't get a chance. But I'll reach out to them and keep the county staff in the loop on that as well. The other thing that I've reached out to PIA with DOT Tampa, and just to follow up on one of our items that's on the list, of course, that being the 301 to south end of Zephyr Hills from Gulf Boulevard from 39 up through town. And I know they're looking for additional funding to complete the revised PD&E. So we have a meeting scheduled towards the middle end of this month where we're going to have some further discussions on that. Look forward to that. That's all that I have. Any other comments? Anything?
Todd, I just wanted to say our next meeting is on June 8th for the TAC. We have both a location, physical location, but pretty much if it's going to be virtual, we're going to set up for that as well.
Manny?
Okay.
Manny, this is David Goldstein. I just got an email earlier from Paula, and I believe the Board of County Commissioners is going to direct that all meetings be virtual through June 30th.
Well, there's our answer then.
There we go.
That's not official yet, but it's going to be discussed at the next board meeting, but that's going to be the recommendation of the county administrator.
Thank you, David.
Okay, we'll call for an adjournment then.
I think Jensen had something, but he's muted.
Hey, thank you.
Can you unmute him?
He should be good.
Hey, Todd, I will check with Brian Schroyer on the 56 Acer. I just haven't seen him since the beginning of March. So I'll check with him and get back to you on that one, okay?
Understood. Thank you, Jensen. Well, we'll call for a motion to adjourn the meeting. I guess that's what we need to do, right?
Move to adjourn. Kurt Scheibel.
So we're all in favor. I guess we can.
Was there a second?
There's
Seconded it.
a second. All right. All the board members indicate their name and if they're in approval.
Venkat, aye.
This is Debbie, aye.
Kurt Scheibel, aye.
Cynthia, aye.
Christine Hunter's aye.
Todd, aye.